Striated herons, often called mangrove herons, are a cosmopolitan species widely distributed in South America, Africa, Asia and Australia, and on islands in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. They're at home in a wide variety of habitats, including rivers and streams, mangrove forests, wetlands, lake margins, salt flats, ocean and harbour foreshores, rice fields and ponds. They're found in tropical and temperate zones and have even been recorded 4,000 metres above sea level in the Andes. I found a breeding pair based at a small man-made billabong in a popular park on Cook's River in inner southwest Sydney. The park is something of an urban biological hotspot, where replanted native vegetation has fostered a wonderful array of resident and migratory birds. The sheltered tidal water of the billabong forms a refuge for a surprising variety of marine organisms, especially mud crabs and juvenile fish, and these in turn provide food for herons, kingfishers and cormorants. Like the bigger species in the heron family, striatids hunt primarily by stalking quietly along the water's edge. They might look like they lack the long necks of the others, but it's there, folded up. Striated herons have a couple of other tricks as well. They've been observed dropping small feathers or leaves onto the surface of streams to lure curious fish into range. And, like kingfishers, they'll dive from a perch to catch prey. In the history of science, these birds have a rare distinction. They were one of the very first organisms to be described and named under the modern system of classification and identification called binominal nomenclature. The system, which gives a unique Latin name to each organism, was invented in the mid-18th century by the great Swedish naturalist Carl von Linné, and he described and named the striated heron way back in 1758 in Systema Naturae, the book that initiated the system. I first spotted the heron's nest, a flimsy platform of sticks high up in a grey mangrove tree, in late October, when they were already incubating eggs. A month later, I saw a chick for the first time. Striated herons normally lay between 2 and 5 eggs, but as the days passed, it was evident there was only one chick. It's unclear why that was, but it's unlikely any siblings had been taken by predators because the herons guarded the nest carefully, with one adult in attendance at all times. In this incident, a nest-robbing currawong was driven off by a threat display by the heron, with some help from a feisty little willy wagtail that was nesting nearby. Through the day, the adult at the nest fed the chick on demand with regurgitated food. Slowing that sequence down and zooming in, you can see that the chick is swallowing a whole juvenile fish, weighing perhaps a third as much as itself.
Oh, golly. Look at that beak.
I know. Its beak's almost as big as the adult.
The chick grew fast, and by early December it had grown enough to be too big for predators like currawongs, so its parents left it by itself during the day. Striated heron chicks are very precocious, and this one was soon making expeditions from the nest to explore its environment. And when it got bored waiting long hours for its parents to return, it let off steam by dancing around and exercising its wings. Or by clambering around in the foliage near the nest. By mid-December, the chick was flying competently and spent its days on the banks of the Billabong teaching itself how to hunt. Its parents returned only occasionally and called it back to the nest to be fed. In what was very much a trial and error process, it lunged instinctively at anything that moved. In this case, it succeeded brilliantly in catching a highly toxic common toadfish. Fortunately for the young heron, even before it struck, the toadfish had inflated itself to a size where it was way too big to be swallowed. And as one of the heron's parents called it to the nest to be fed, the toadfish deflated itself and escaped. At low tide, the prickly tangle of mangrove air roots made things very difficult for the little heron, but it persisted and started to succeed. It was an exhausting business, and an afternoon nap was in order. At the end of December, the adults began renovating their nest in preparation for another breeding attempt. Their chick had grown into a fully fledged juvenile. It still had a few hunting skills to perfect, but in such a food-rich environment it would be able to feed itself quite easily. I last saw the young heron at the Billabong on the 30th of December. No doubt it departed to find a territory of its own, most likely in the mangroves fringing Cook's River or nearby Walleye Creek.